In its heyday, more than 100,000 people a day pushed and shoved their way through it. For those who were here then, this was a transportation hub unlike any other. Union Station in St. Louis, Missouri, was the grandest of the grand old railroad terminals. When America began to rely on the speed of the airplane and the convenience of the automobile, Union Station, like railroad stations everywhere, began to disintegrate. Slowly, this majestic building evolved from a major transportation center to a rundown shelter for vagrants and rodents, a decaying eyesore with no purpose. But something special would happen to this dying giant. A group of investors decided Union Station could not only be saved, but could be turned into a life-giving part of St. Louis as a luxury hotel and massive retail shopping mall. And perhaps most significantly, be restored to its original grandeur. For that particular project, one company emerged with the expertise to accomplish this task. One firm with the capabilities to uncover and restore the treasures buried under a century of dust and dirt. The Conrad Schmitt Studios. Conrad Schmitt Studios. Expert artisans who coax new heartbeats from neglected and lifeless landmarks. Bernard Grinke Sr. and his son, Bernard Grinke Jr., are the masters behind the gifted artists who symbolize the quality workmanship of Conrad Schmitt Studios. This is a meeting to update the studio's key people on another one of its massive projects, the historic Paramount Theater in Boston.
No one had touched the theater. The only thing that they had done to it was they put lights in so that you could finally see inside. And it was very dark other than where the lights were shining, and there was water in the basement area, 6 feet deep. It was incredible. The floor was basically blue, and as you shuffled along, you left tracks, and what it was the blue paint that had fallen from the ceiling and deposited itself on the floor.
In her days of splendor, the Paramount was a Boston showcase, a unique architectural wonderland for presenting the films of Paramount Pictures. In the dust and darkness of unstirred decades, artists from Conrad Schmitt Studios begin the delicate work, clad in work suits that protect them from asbestos, well known today as a serious health hazard, but used in this theater years ago to plaster walls and enhance the acoustics.
Sometimes I feel the ghosts, a little eerie feeling if you think about it.
Dave Strickland and his co-workers will take hundreds of photographs, pluck scores of paint samples from walls and floors and ceilings, and then carefully, ever so carefully, return them to the Schmitt Studios in Wisconsin, where they will be analyzed and then duplicated to restore the theater exactly the way it was originally decorated.
That's the name of the project, basically. Get the information and put it back on the walls and ceilings.
For close to a half-century, Bernard Grinke Sr. has been the artistic soul and fire at Conrad Schmitt Studios. In that time, the names of Conrad Schmitt studios and Grinke have been placed on thousands of restoration projects. Theaters from Wisconsin to Texas. The historic grain exchange in Milwaukee. Hotels in Missouri, Georgia, New York, Alabama, Ohio, and Illinois. And churches and synagogues coast to coast. St. Vincent de Paul is preparing for its centennial celebration. 100 years of service to its worshipers. A liturgical update is necessary, as well as restoring this church to its original state. To be so real and so authentic that the artists who did the work first, almost a century ago, wouldn't know the difference.
You're constantly aware of somebody else's hand, doing the very same thing you're doing now. The artist who did it originally, their idea, their creation will still be there. Long they've been dead, for so long. The way we'll be going about it will basically be the same way that they did it, using almost the exact same brush strokes to create the same shapes. So, in that sense, it's almost an exact reproduction of the way it was done, besides being a reproduction of what was done.